Every morning, before the first worker arrived, Musa unlocked the company gate and greeted everyone with a warm smile. He wore the same clean blue security uniform every day. He checked visitors, opened the gate, and helped people carry heavy bags without asking for anything in return. Most workers barely looked at him. Some greeted him, others acted as if he did not exist. One Monday morning, 3 office staff walked past him and started laughing. "Look at Musa," one of them said. "He has worked here for years and is still a security guard." Another shook his head. "Some people are afraid to dream." Musa only smiled. "Good morning. Have a great day." His calm answer made them laugh even more. Inside the office, everyone rushed to finish reports and prepare for meetings. The sales manager shouted at junior workers. The receptionist complained about customers. Every department was busy trying to impress their supervisors. Musa quietly walked around the building, picking up litter, and helping an elderly visitor find the right office. When a cleaner dropped a box of files, he bent down and helped her gather every paper. "Thank you," she said. "You are welcome," Musa replied with a gentle smile. Even after people mocked him, he never looked angry. He carried himself with quiet confidence, as if he knew something no one else did. Later that afternoon, the human resources manager called everyone together. "Listen carefully," she announced. "The CEO will be visiting this branch tomorrow. Make sure everything is perfect." The office became silent. Everyone wanted to make a good impression. No one noticed Musa standing calmly at the gate, wearing the same peaceful smile. The next morning, Musa arrived before sunrise, just as he always did. He swept the front entrance, checked the gates, and made sure the company compound was clean. By the time the first workers arrived, everything was ready. As people walked in, they talked about only one thing. "The CEO will be here today. I heard he doesn't forgive mistakes. I hope our department wins his praise." Everyone looked nervous except Musa. He welcomed each worker with the same warm smile. "Good morning." Most ignored him. As the office became busy, the operations manager hurried outside. His face was full of worry. "Musa," he shouted. "Yes, sir." Musa answered politely. "Why is there dust near the parking area? Didn't you clean this place?" Musa looked around. A delivery truck had just driven in, leaving fresh dust behind. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll clean it right away." "You always have an excuse," the manager snapped before walking away. Musa quietly picked up his broom and started sweeping again. A few minutes later, a young accountant rushed out of the building with a cup of hot coffee in her hand. She was looking at her phone and did not see Musa. She bumped into him. The coffee spilled across the front of his blue uniform. "Oh," she gasped. Before she could speak again, another worker laughed. "Now your old uniform looks even worse." Several people laughed with him. "You should buy better clothes," one man said. "Or is a security guard's salary too small?" Another added, "Poor people always look the same." Musa looked down at his stained shirt. He took a handkerchief from his pocket and gently wiped the coffee away. "It was an accident," he said kindly. "Please don't worry." The young accountant felt ashamed. "I'm sorry, Musa." He smiled. "It's all right. Have a good day." His calm voice surprised her, but the others only shook their heads and walked away. Later that morning, Musa noticed an elderly visitor struggling with a heavy bag. Without thinking twice, he carried it into the reception area. The old man thanked him warmly. As Musa returned to the gate, he noticed workers decorating the entrance with fresh flowers and company banners. The reception desk was polished until it shined. Managers checked every office one last time. Everyone was preparing for the CEO's arrival. The office was brighter than usual. Every desk was neat, every window was clean, and every worker tried to look busy. Managers walked from one department to another, making sure nothing was out of place. Outside, Musa stood quietly at the gate, greeting visitors with his usual smile. His old phone suddenly rang. He looked at the screen for a moment before answering. "Good morning, sir." He listened carefully without saying much. "Yes, sir." A short pause followed. I understand. His voice stayed calm. I'll be here. He ended the call, placed the phone back into his pocket, and continued checking visitors, as if nothing had happened. The cleaner, who had watched from a distance, wondered who had called him. Before she could ask, another worker called her away. A few minutes later, a shining black luxury car slowed down near the company gate. Everyone nearby stopped to look. "Who is that?" one worker whispered. The car paused for a few seconds beside Musa. The back window lowered just a little. A man wearing dark glasses looked toward Musa with a small smile. Musa nodded politely. Without another word, the window went up, and the car drove away. The workers looked at one another. Maybe they were asking for directions, someone said. Of course, another replied with a laugh. Who would come here to see a security guard? They all returned to their work. Not long after, an elderly man carrying a walking stick reached the entrance. He looked tired and confused. "I'm looking for the finance office," he said softly. "I'll take you there," Musa replied. He carried the man's small bag, walked slowly beside him, and made sure he reached the right department before quietly returning to his post. As he came back, one of the senior directors walked past the gate. He looked closely at Musa for a brief moment. Surprise flashed across his face, but he quickly looked away and continued walking without saying a word. Musa simply greeted him. "Good afternoon, sir." The director gave a small nod, but kept moving. Just then, the sound of several engines filled the air. Workers hurried toward the entrance. Managers straightened their jackets. The company directors lined up outside. The CEO's convoy had entered the compound. The convoy came to a smooth stop in front of the company entrance. 4 black SUVs stood in a neat line. Security officers stepped out first and looked around carefully. Every employee stood still. The operations manager quickly straightened his tie. The human resources manager forced a smile. "The CEO is here," someone whispered. The back door of the first SUV opened. A tall man in a dark suit stepped out. He looked around the compound for only a second. The managers hurried toward him, ready to welcome him. "Good morning, sir," they said together. But the CEO did not stop. He walked past every manager without shaking a single hand. The workers looked at one another in surprise. Where was he going? The CEO continued walking until he reached the company gate. Then he smiled. "Musa." The quiet security guard smiled back. "Good morning, sir." To everyone's surprise, the CEO stretched out his hand. "It's good to see you again." Musa shook his hand politely. "It's good to see you too." The entire compound became silent. The operations manager could not believe his eyes. The receptionist covered her mouth in shock. The same security guard they had laughed at was standing face to face with the CEO, as if they had known each other for years. The CEO turned to the crowd. "I hope all of you know this man." Nobody answered. He smiled gently. "Many years ago, before I became CEO, I was a young supervisor with very little experience. I made a mistake that almost cost this company everything." Everyone listened carefully. It was Musa who saw the problem first. He stayed late that night, found the missing records, and helped us stop a deal that would have caused huge losses. The managers stared at Musa. The CEO continued. "If he had remained silent, this company might not exist today." The workers looked at one another with shame. "But that's not all," the CEO said. "When I first joined this company, Musa trained me. He taught me that leadership begins with honesty, respect, and serving others. I have never forgotten those lessons." The CEO placed a hand on Musa's shoulder. "I still call him my teacher." No one laughed anymore. The people who had mocked Musa only moments earlier lowered their heads, unable to meet his eyes. The silence around the company gate felt heavier than ever. The workers who had laughed at Musa only minutes before could not lift their heads. The operations manager slowly stepped forward. His face was red with embarrassment. "Musa," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology. I judged you without knowing your story. I am truly sorry." Musa gave him a small smile. "There is nothing to worry about, sir." One by one, the others came forward. The young accountant looked down at the coffee stain that was still faintly visible on Musa's uniform. "I'm sorry for spilling coffee on you," she said. "You were kind to me even when others laughed." "It was an accident," Musa replied. "Please don't blame yourself." Another worker cleared his throat. "We called you poor. We laughed at your job. We were wrong." Musa nodded gently. "I hope we can all treat each other with respect from today." The CEO looked around at everyone gathered outside. "This is exactly why I wanted to visit this branch myself," he said. "A company is not measured by its building or its profits. It is measured by how its people treat one another." No one spoke. The CEO continued. "Titles can change, uniforms can change, money can come and go, but good character is worth more than all of them." He turned toward the human resources manager. "I want every recommendation for promotion reviewed again." The manager looked surprised. "Sir, I have seen people here who work hard but are ignored. From today, promotions must be based on honesty, service, and character, not on who speaks the loudest." Several workers looked at one another with uneasy faces. The CEO smiled at Musa. "For many years, this man has served this company with faithfulness. He has never asked for praise. He simply does his work with dignity every single day." Musa lowered his eyes. "I only did what was right, sir." The CEO nodded with respect. "And that is why you have earned mine." The young accountant stepped closer, still unable to hide her curiosity. She looked at Musa and asked softly, "If you trained the CEO and helped save this company, why didn't you tell us who you really were?" Musa smiled gently before answering the young accountant. "I never told anyone because respect should not depend on someone's title. If people only respect you after they know you are important, then it is not true respect." The compound became quiet again. His words touched every person standing there. The operations manager lowered his head. "I have worked here for 10 years, he said softly. "Today I learned one of the biggest lessons of my life." Several workers nodded in agreement. The CEO looked proudly at Musa. "This is the man I wanted everyone to meet. Not because of his past, but because of the way he lives every day." He turned toward the human resources manager. "I have one more announcement." Everyone waited. "From today, Musa will become our employee mentor. Every new worker in this company will spend time learning from him. His kindness, honesty, and respect are the values this company should be known for." The workers broke into loud applause. This time, the applause was real. The young accountant smiled through her tears. "You deserve it, Musa." He shook his head with a humble smile. "We all deserve respect. We only need to remember to give it first." The CEO smiled. "That is exactly why you earned this honor." As the meeting ended, people who had ignored Musa every morning now walked over to greet him. Some thanked him for helping them in the past. Others apologized once more for their unkind words. Musa accepted every apology with kindness. He carried no anger in his heart. Before leaving, the CEO looked around at the employees one last time. "I hope none of you forget what happened today," he said. "Success is not measured by the chair you sit on or the clothes you wear. It is measured by the way you treat people when you think they have nothing to offer." The workers stood silently, thinking about their own actions. As Musa returned to his post at the company gate, he wore the same blue security uniform and the same peaceful smile he had always worn. Only one thing had changed. Now everyone understood what that uniform could never tell them. A person's uniform tells you their job, not their worth. The greatest mistake is judging someone before you know their story.